If you want to understand wind, look at the patterns in the sand dunes. If you want to understand sand, look at it under a microscope and behold that it is not a homogeneous tan, brown, semi-fluid substance, but it's a bunch of little different tiny things made up of glass and shells and all sorts of broken down rocks. So, imagine that the center focal point of a system contains information about the things that are affected by it. And depending on how you look, it's going to affect what you're looking at. Depending on how you focus on something, that something is going to behave differently. Okay? Light waves behave as photons. Qubits are forced into collapsing and being in a position when observed. Essentially, they're in a super state until the wave function is collapsed. And this is point zero in what modern science needs to be focusing on, because this is direct scientific evidence of an entanglement between the observer and the stimulus. So combine this with the fact that human beings are emergent from the universe that they are observing. And think about how the parts of a system are individual systems themselves. The entire universe is basically a fractal. And what that means is when you get to the smallest point and you look at it, it changes. Okay? But this is the law that applies. Because when you kind of look at something, or you look at it with focus, or, measure its exact position in space-time, you affect its position in space-time. Natural sciences that involve biological processes need to acknowledge this. Science that has, engineers that create microchips need to acknowledge this. Everyone needs to acknowledge basically the fact that your participation in your own life has an effect on it. And it will take a long time, if humanity survives this political spectrum, for modern science to integrate this fact, but the evidence lies within the collapse of the waveform and photons that behave as waves. So, my point is that the bigger picture is only as big as the amount of time you spend looking at it. And then you realize that there's space around that frame and that the thing you were looking at starts to change. So, a fundamental law is the inseparability of observer and universe, and also the fact that energy is in motion always. There is no nothing. There is no absolute zero in the physical 14 billion year old cone that we are currently also. Beyond that are things that just seem more real than real life, but they don't behave on the same principles as things in real life. I mean, excluding the two principles I just laid out, these things can move and float and spin and change colors and disappear and stuff. So psychology needs to integrate a lot before it can be even helpful to mainstream people. And proof that the brain is a what you would call a semi-quantum system. It functions on nutrients on the atomic level, and then down at the microtubules goes by superpositioning and functioning that is based on quantum mechanics. And therefore, observation, whether awareness is a physical field that exists that we have access to, or whether or not we create our own awareness, it affects our brains on a quantum level that cascades outward with, vibration and, the passing of information. The neural network is 10-dimensional, okay? It goes to the quantum level, it goes to the nutrients level, it goes to the grand cosmos level, and it goes to the non-physical existence level in the morphogenetic field. And all of these things are at play at all times.